see all the greatness I possess, endless possibilities. Looking in the mirror, what do I see?
Welcome to the SeekELLAvation experience with yours truly, attorney Ella Keisha. I am an attorney, but I'm not yours. More than likely, I'm not. And if I'm not giving any legal advice within any information that I share. I am giving education, legal information. Take the gems and do with them as you will if I touch on any legal issues. But right here is where real issues, real people, and real conversations take center stage, because change doesn't happen in silence. And in our bravery, we must speak. Speak with intention and intelligence. From sports and entertainment to business and community, right here is where we elevate voices that need to be heard. But we're not just elevating voices to be heard. We're not just talking, we're doing so that you, the listener or viewer, can be empowered, inspired as we challenge the status quo. So for this season, season 3, I just wrapped up the live stage segments, elevating voices that need to be heard in different industries to elevate the viewers and listeners, and to also hopefully make connections. But for the remaining of the season, what is going to happen is it will be me and you. Just raw, real, and straight to the point. I will bring other people back on again. I'm trying to decide how I want to do that for next season. And for those who are listening who have made requests, I thank you so much for sending requests to grace the stage. I definitely, as I have responded to you all, am keeping a list, and we will connect and talk, and I will look at a way to incorporate you in this elevation circle for the elevators. But right now, bring it home. I'm going to bring it back to the old school podcast energy. You remember the way it all started before the lights and the cameras and live streams. All of that is good because I'm going to incorporate all of it. I love the elevation. That's what I'm about, right? Elevation. So I love all of the lights, cameras, and live stream, but also remembering that old school feel. And I do a twist to it because these remaining segments, of course, will be available on all streaming podcasts or streaming, iHeart, Spotify, Apple. It'll be available on all that, but I'm still going to post this on YouTube. I'll still have it there so we don't break the way that you're used to connecting with SeekELLAvation. Maybe you connect with it on both platforms, the visual and audio, maybe one or the other. So I still will incorporate putting the videos on YouTube, even though it is straight old school podcast energy. And also for those who may have missed our live sessions throughout the season, missed some of them, maybe you just happened upon this channel and didn't even know there were live sessions. You can still view those sessions on YouTube. We will be repurposing the live stage interviews. We will clip them up so you can watch them in short form or long form. So they're still there. And those of you who have attended all or most of all, this is a way you can still catch up and go back to see if maybe you've missed something during the live, during the conversation. If there's anything possibly missed, you have a chance to rewatch. Or maybe you watch one and it wasn't enough to watch it one time. And you said, oh, I have to go back and watch that again. There's a few of them I can think of offhand that applies to that situation. So that would be awesome. But today, what I am doing, I am opening up our one-on-one session by just addressing some real talk. Some of the recent hot topics and debates that have been just stirring up tension in general. I know it has been doing that in my space. So there's a lot of times that, of course, with me doing like this, being on YouTube or other social media, you have to get on the World Wide Web and you're seeing what's going on all around. Even when you just try to focus on isolated avenues such as your social media pages, you're still seeing it there. And I always question, because I said, I thought algorithm is what drives what I see and what I don't see. That's what I always heard. And I'm like, I don't chase and look at certain things that are finding their way on my page. So I don't know about the algorithm. I think there's certain things that just pushed for us all to see anyway. And then there's certain things that applies to the algorithm. But there's so much that has been going on with recent hot topics and debates. And there's just this popular belief that business is one lane and everything else is another lane. Everything else, such as politics, religion, the justice system, and on, belongs in another. I know, speaking of social media platforms, LinkedIn is one like that, right? So there could be some very important situations going on, necessary conversations that need to be had. And some people will take it to LinkedIn and they may preface that post with, I know this is not Facebook, but, or there's times that people just post about certain topics and other people will come comment, can you please take this off LinkedIn? This is not Facebook. This is where we supposed to just focus on business. But I don't subscribe to that. I believe everything is interconnected. Your money, your mindset, your morals, they're all interconnected. They all sit at the same table. And if we're going to build just real lasting ownership, especially when it comes to business, we can't ignore the systems, beliefs. We can't ignore the climates that's shaping our decisions. Even if you're not focused on ownership with a business, maybe not focus on ownership with anything, and you just focus on, I just get up, I grind, I work. Still getting up, going to work, showing up as your best self for whomever you're working for. It's still all about mindset. I know one of our popular conversations, headliners, as we're talking about now, is mental health, right? That didn't just fall out the sky. Like, if we're going to talk about that, what is affecting that? what is that? It's not this invisible boogeyman. Like, if we're talking about mental health, what is affecting it? Everything that's going on around us. And if our mental health, if people's mental health is affected, then it spews over to everything that they do and that they're connected to. Everything that they have to make a decision about, whether it's family, work, whatever it is. Mental health, it's about our thoughts. So I don't subscribe to this is a lane to just talk about business and please bring that somewhere else. No, all of it needs to be talked about. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to talk about everything that affects everything because it is interconnected. And that's where I want to start off my first one-on-one segment with you with, because there are some things that, again, like I just said earlier, have been bothersome to me. I have to definitely go to self, meditate, pray, turn inwardly in order for me to continue to execute and activate outwardly. And in doing so, I've received a lot of answers to a lot of questions and frustrations and doubt. I've received some clarity on that. And that's some of the things that I want to share today. Use my platform for that, for us to elevate as I continue to elevate myself. So I definitely want to talk about politics. I want to talk about faith, beliefs, and I want to talk about economics. So politics, faith, and economic climate. These are three things that are so hitting hard, so hard right now. There's a lot of other things going on, but these are really hitting hard. At least I know in my space. So that's what I want to focus on. And if we're going to talk about being our best version in any industry, because this is, I'm going to what I do, right? I go and I empower individuals in specific industries. I empower creatives, business owners, and athletes. If I'm even going to focus on doing what I do best, which is prioritizing people's legacy and helping them establish that, whatever that means to them, these are the things we have to be grounded in. Before I even show up to be of service, I am constantly, in tuned to these three areas in a healthy manner, because I do believe some people can get so unhealthy in it. I stay in tuned enough to know what I need to know in order to be grounded in what I need to do. So I want to start with politics, and then we'll go into faith, and then I'll end off with the economic climate, some thoughts on it. So starting with politics, what comes to my mind is not just who's running or what party you like. That's low level thinking. I'm talking about high level here. I want to talk about the deeper game, because for too long we have existed just thinking about parties. Democrat versus Republican, is this versus. There's this huge division. Listen, we always talk about the streets and gangs. People bring that up. All these gangs and streets, and we got to clean up the crime and all this. The red and blue in government is a tougher gang than the red and blue in the streets. If we look at this one of the most dangerous battlefields is the red and blue in government, because it thrives on division. and it weaponizes identity. That's what it do, right? So yes, there's things that we have to focus on and address when it comes to these our safety in these streets and war. We have to look at why some of that even exists. Why do some individuals even feel compelled to form these groups that sometime engages in violent acts? Why are these violent acts there? Not to say that every situation is tied to a lack or not having, right? Some people just may innately just have that rough, hardened heart, maybe. But I'm talking about the grand scale of things, why we are even moving the way we move as a society. But that government established itself. It knew why it wanted to be established. If we go all the way back to the beginning, but we're not going to do that in this segment. With America being started as a business, if we're talking about business, this is why we can't even separate politics. We can't separate any of that because all of that is a business. All of it, the politics of control, it's a business. And the pawns are everybody that's being used to move around. So yes, that red and blue is a tough government, and we subscribe to this, right? We latch on to this narrative of division that you have to pick and you have to identify you're red or you blue. Even when you have some people who say, okay, I'm independent, I'm whatever it is, that's you don't really hear that talked about. That is washed away. What is prevalent, what is loud, what is forced is red and blue. And people wave their flags proudly with that. And although it has changed throughout history what that red and blue is supposed to look like, at the end of the day, it's still about the vision because it's supposed to be we the people. And somehow we recite we the people, but we the people are controlled by a very few. And then we go at it amongst each other. And what most people don't see is that while we are arguing, while we are planting these flags and saying, this is my identity, while the media is inflaming emotions, there's a lot of changes being made behind the closed doors. Now, what is decided to be shared up front is very selective. Very. There's a lot of things happening while we're distracted, divided, fighting. There's a lot of things. And sometimes we don't even hear what those things are until it's done. When we do hear some things that's in the process, we're so emotional that we cannot mentally and logically process what we're even hearing because we hear from a bias, from a red or blue bias. We can have the same information that's dropped to everyone. But how we individually process that information is going to be filtered through the biases that we have. And if we're already listening to information from a red bias or a blue bias, it's already filtered and predicted on how it's going to land. But if we can wake up, and I know that that word has been attacked to be woke, to be this, and some people have, just like with any word, have just washed it, used it for whatever reasons. But at the end of the day, looking at the Webster dictionary and just being awake, I would prefer to be awake than be asleep. So I'm just saying, to the true essence of the word, not some fad. If we wake up and stop sleeping and dismantle these biases that we allow to be put on us, we can process information that we hear from a more truer, pure place. Then we will have a lot of aha, like, wait, hold up, what? No, that's not right. But we allow ourselves to dismiss some potent information because we are so loyal to whatever identity we're loyal to. For me, I'm not to either. And I am very grateful and thankful to always seek and stand on the side of not sleeping. I am not latched on to any identity that's being weaponized. No blue, no red. I'm not about political party. I'm about people. I'm about progress. I'm about prosperity. And I listen for that, however and whomever is coming out of. So, all of us on the ground, regardless of race, religion, location, those that's on the ground, we're being manipulated and we're being used and used towards or against each other. Not a new game, though, right? It's not new. It's from the beginning of time. It's not new. But what can be new is us changing. And those who are listening, we may be listening right now in 2025, but truly what my hopes are those listening in the future. I am speaking in the present with the hopes and faith of future listeners. The same way as myself doing research now, I find a lot of things historically from the past to inform me on my present. And those individuals that I research don't even know, right? There, a lot of them are long gone, don't know that someone like myself has studied their knowledge and information, but they left it for the future, even though it was happening then. What do they say? Sometime you may plant the seeds that grow a tree that you won't enjoy the shade under. I'm using my platform to share now, and I hope that it pierces the hearts of individuals in the now. But I'm super hopeful that it pierces the hearts of those who are going to be on a continuum of change, activating it and not just talking about it. But politics uses everyone's vulnerabilities. It does. And it knows if we really pay attention and stop looking from the biases, stop looking from this. And that's another thing too, right? When we're talking about red and blue, a lot of times those words are really being used synonymously with other words, right? Sometimes you say red, we think, okay, or conservative is supposed to be all white. And you say Democrat or blue, and it's supposed to be black people. And then you have other people that just fall in between. But we know that's not the case because we have all types of people that identify with red and all types of people that identify with blue. All people identify with Republicans, all people identify with Democrats. Now, I do know that the core of each of those parties, they stand on different principles at its core, and people don't like the core of those principles, but they are one coin, opposite sides. They are one bird and each have a wing. It's the same. Whatever the core they decided to stand on, the at the end of the day, they're flying in the same direction, which is to use our vulnerabilities in order for them to achieve whatever it is that they feel they want to achieve, whatever they want to control. And we know that when emotions are high, truth is buried. We, the people, were supposed to be using this democracy, this government, in order to push the things that we, the people, felt was best for us, not the other way around. You have these individuals in these certain positions pushing on us what we think we should accept. And then we're fighting each other to amplify their voices. It is supposed to be our voices. And not just looking at, when I say the government, a lot of time, okay, we've got going on now with the president, there's a lot of different things going on, but most people only focus on politics from that bird's eye view, looking at the president. We go out in droves. Every 4 years, whoever's running, sometimes we're pushed. You have all of these campaigns and these hypes. Time to vote, time to vote, time to vote. Time for the president. It reminds me, as a track athlete, right? It reminds me that people think track is only relevant every 4 years during Olympics. That's that frustration level for me, right? Track and field goes on beyond every 4 years, beyond the Olympics. It goes on all year round, every year. But it only garners their attention from people when it's time for the Olympics. The same thing when we talk about politics. The tension is during that Olympic time to vote for the president. But when we're looking at how this system works, it's more than the president. You know, we have the executive branch, we have legislation, we have judicial. All of them have their different parts. And then we have to look at those that's on the ground. We can't focus on these headlines and these debates. Meanwhile, the real plays are happening quietly at the base level. We're literally distracted from that root. A lot of plays are there. Hence the reason why when we vote in someone such as the president, they make sure they pull in and appoint people, individuals in certain places, because it's a concerted effort in order to effectuate these changes. There's times things have to go through legislation. There's times things have to go, it's judicial. Who has jurisdiction over what? And we, the people, are not that educated in it, because I believe, my point of view was that we feel that, and I'm using generality. Let me just go ahead and put that disclaimer. A lot of times I try my best not to, just for ease and simplicity of speaking. I may say we all or something like that, but I do know that's not everyone, right? I'm not saying everyone, because I'm throwing myself into this conversation. I'm including myself in this conversation, even when I know my thinking is starkly different than a lot of things that I'm saying. So I'm just saying we. So we do think that, okay, we have this government, and this government is supposed to make sure we're all good and we're going to get taken care of. And we hear a lot about presidents. That's who's front facing. We hear about that. It gets quiet. Everybody else get quiet. It's not much talk about it unless and until it's time to talk about it, until it's time to talk about the mayor or the governor or the commissioner or whoever. Until it's time to talk about those individuals, we're really just hearing about the president. We very rarely hear about the vice president, who does a lot of work, takes a lot of meetings, do a lot of the negotiations. When we've been thinking about voting for the president, we focus on just the president. And then they decide, okay, let me name who my running mate's going to be. We don't even think about, oh, wait, we voted for this president, but who are they considering their running mate to be? Because that running mate, that vice president is very, very crucial. But we're looking at things at the bird's eye, and it's time that we cannot do that. It is affecting us on all levels. All levels. This isn't just red versus blue. And it's not just black versus white, brown versus black, brown versus white, yellow versus black, none of that stuff. All of these social constructs, all of these social constructs that's thrown out there. It's none of that. This is us versus them. That's who it is. So who is us? Those of us who want to be free. Those of us who want to build, to own, to prosper. Us. And them, those who want to control, to steal, to manipulate. That right there has no color. It's only position of power. And those of us who want to be free and build and own and prosper, them weaponize all of that and make us live in such a fearful state and think we have to compete in order to be free, in order to build, in order to own, in order to prosper. Make us feel we have to compete to do that while they're doing that and controlling. You know, that's where certain things are used. All of the isms are used. We talk a lot about racism, and especially when we talk about this red and blue, we focus strictly on racism. Oh, you're racist if you're red, or you're lazy and whatever other negative connotation if you're blue. You're hateful if you this. No. All the isms. And speaking of that, what's very important is while we use words that's pushed on us, all of the isms, we need to sit and really understand the power and meaning of words, because speaking of using words and throwing them around, such as woke, racism is one of it. Right? You hear everyone call someone racism. Just looking at the definition of it, just go look it up. Right? We confuse racism with discrimination, with prejudice. They're all different. But we're thrown these words in order to just, again, keep us divided, keep us labeling. If we're talking about racism, we're talking about a system of advantage, based on race, right? A system that results in racial inequalities. Just saying, I have this thought about someone because of their social constructed race, or I feel this way, or you think somebody don't like you because of your socially constructed race. That's not racism. That's a system, right? We're looking at. You're not talking about an individual. It may be a prejudice. There's this preconceived opinion about you, a preconceived opinion that may not be based on any reason or experience, or maybe based on that, but they're prejudging you based on that. That's a prejudice, right? And I know a lot of times I've heard people say, oh, this Black person is racist or this. According to the definition, we know, okay, Black person cannot be racist because of a system. They don't control a system that can create these racial inequalities. That's in the US. Now, let me slow up and correct myself. Now, someone that is of who is Black, who identify as being Black, can be racist in a country where they can control a system and have advantages based on race that results in racial inequality. So absolutely they can. I'm speaking of here in US of America, right? So, and then also to go even farther with that, someone who's white, who may say certain things or act a certain way, doesn't make them a racist because of that. They can be prejudiced. Anyone can be prejudiced. They may have a preconceived opinion and be prejudiced. Now, if they're contributing to the system that is resulting in these racial inequalities, then that's a whole other situation. But then we also, again, have discrimination. There's just this unjust treatment that can be based, right, off of prejudice, this unjust treatment of different categories of people. So again, I go back to all of the isms. You have sexism, you have colorism, you have classism. People can discriminate based on these different categories. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is pushed off classism. A lot of, when I say a lot of it, a lot of our division, a lot of what we're fighting now is really driven by classism. And then to divide, you're sprinkling in racism to enforce those racial inequalities. So we really just need to understand words as we do use them, because it helps us to be more informed in our own decision, and even better help us to understand who and what we're actually dealing with altogether. That makes me think about the young man who was just assassinated. I've been, I took time to kind of look at it myself. I didn't, and this happened a while ago. Believe it happened sometime last month. The man Charlie Kirk, and I really didn't know about this young man. I've seen him before pop up on my feed before. I seen it pop up when I do things on YouTube. May have heard him said some things, but I just brushed it off like, okay, whatever. I don't know. But when the situation happened, oh boy, have our social media been inflamed. Another thing I felt used for division. Another thing used to distract. Another thing that was used to drive points home politically, religiously. Another thing used. So for myself, I started to just look a little bit more, not forming an opinion one way or another until I look more, right? Because a lot of us, again, because we're incited by emotions, immediately jump on things because of what we feel people on our side is saying. Again, that could be red or blue. Blue saying this, oh, I'm jumping on it without even looking. Red is saying this, oh, I'm jumping on it without even looking into it, because my identity is tied to it. That's my gang. I got to throw my sign up, put my flag down. My gang say this is what it is. I'm going for it. Doesn't matter. This is the bias I live from. But someone like me who's not attached to any of that, I wanted to look, what is going on? Yeah, I seen, especially to have such high emotions both ways. I said, what is this? So I, looked, and from looking, yeah, there's a lot of conversations. I'm not even going to call them a debate. As someone who has been trained in legal, someone who has debated, again, that's another thing, using those words. If we're talking about debate in its true sense, what I've seen him and Candace and some other people that does it, right? Those are not debates. There's things that are present. There's there was no moderator. There's no knowledge, true information exchange back and forth, where these topics, you got some type of equipped knowledge on them. Yes, there were some of these college students who may thought they know this, they thought they know that. Some sound, like they did know something, couldn't quite articulate it, but it's no debate. There's just these arguments or exchange back and forth of opinions that individuals have, but no true debate. So to, it's classified that. But I seen these conversations that were going back and forth, and yes, even listening, right? There was things that were said by him. There's times he traveled with Candace, said by her, that I was like, yeah, that's not quite right. That's kind of skewed. Then it was things that were said by other people. I'm like, yeah, nope, you got to study your facts a little bit more. That's not quite right. But it was never anything to make me feel like less than taking on anything. If anything, I felt like whatever I didn't know, let me go find that out and go research more on that. Now, I'm not dismissing that the things that we say, especially when we have huge platforms, the things we say, we have to be very careful because they can harm, right? They can incite hate. The misinformation can have people out there, going back to the words we just talked about, have prejudices and discriminate based on misinformation. So don't get me wrong. There's things I heard. I was like, oh, yeah, no. But my first mindset was, if there is something wrong, if there is something incorrect, dangerous, spewing hate, then instead of just being mad or doing okay, I'm going to counteract that. I'm going to share my platform to share the opposing facts. I'm going to educate on another level. I'm going to do these things. I'm not just going to be mad and say, oh, you are saying this. I'm going to counteract that. But now, the reason why I bring that up is because when we're talking about politics, yes, you had individuals like, himself, others who are funded to have these big platforms. And he was young. I don't know if he was young when I believe he was in college, although one of his, talking points was about colleges being a hoax. He was in college at a point, but left college and was approached to take his Turning Point USA company to another level by supporting or funding a certain narrative to be shared. And possibly in that, me watching different things and his conviction, believed those things at that time. Believe some of the things that was shared with him to teach. Really believed it. It's the same thing where I see other people who are pushing certain narratives in other areas, which I'm going to touch on that a little bit when it comes to religion, right? Whatever you're taught, you think you truly believe it and you push it, but to the point that you may cause harm or comes off hateful. I've seen that same thing in so many other ways when someone is so passionate or convicted by what they believe is true in the name of thinking this is for the better, this is for change. So I was able to step back and not be so emotionally charged by what was going on, and to look at it to say, okay, this is not new. It's definitely not different. So it's used though to divide us. It's not new, it's not different, but it's relevant right now to pile on again to divide us. It would be a great opportunity, which some use it for, is say, hey, yeah, since these conversations are coming to light, let me use this to, share other information that is actually true. And I'll talk about some of that in a second. This is my chance to say, okay, when somebody talk about this, it's possibly that. But yeah, we have to stop being so we are human, so we have emotion, and that's fine. It's just we have to get them in check. Allow them to do what they need to do, and then we get them in check. And then we need to take whatever has gotten us emotional, once we got it in check, and dissect that and say, okay, what am I doing with this? How is someone trying to use me and control me with it? That's just like in a relationship. You're not going to be in a relationship. Someone controls your emotion in any type of relationship. They're controlling you. He who controls your emotions controls your life. And so we have to apply all of those principles in every area of our life, personal relationship, business relationship, looking at politics. We're out here very emotional. We can't be manipulated. And if you're someone who's in business, if you're someone who's building a brand or protecting legacy, we have to stop seeing politics the way we've been seeing politics. It's not someone else's fight. It's your fight to take that area of your life and stop being emotionally charged by it and be mentally informed. This is your battlefield. Ignoring the system, trying not to post it on LinkedIn, not having the hard, uncomfortable conversations, it just makes you vulnerable. That's what it does. It just makes you vulnerable. So we need to have these conversations and not allow events or situations to just emotionally charge us, and not to just hear information and process it from a biased perspective. Let's put down these colors as identity. I'm not telling you you rock whatever you want. I'm saying don't let it become your identity. Let it be something, a tool you use to get to where you want. It's a means to an end, which means okay, I could change that tool. It's not working. But don't be so loyal and sold out to it, like it's a death of you. If you walk from it, that you can't hear any wrong in either. Don't get out of that game. Course correction is happening right now. You have to stay anchored. Don't lose your mind when others are losing theirs. Reclaim your time, reclaim your mind. This is what I've done. And I am not for any narrative that got me locked into ignoring truth and allowing truth to be spoken to power. And we know that is the case if we're just focused on being divided. Anything divided cannot stand. I'm not saying everything has to be a monolith. Unity doesn't mean monolith. It means that we're moving for that same direction and purpose. Like I just talked about, that freedom, that prosperity. We're moving for that. If we're completely divided, it's going to fall. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on from there. There's so much. I can have a whole segment on just talking about our state of politics right now and how that is affecting every area of our life. But I'm not. I'm going to go on and move on to faith, which also can be a whole nother segment within itself. People may feel like this is even something more personal. Confirmation that this is definitely bigger than what meets the eye. But let me share this with you.